Monsieur Breton,
Mr. Breton, will you fight for that budget line? Yes, we will fight to make sure that we have the means necessary, of course. But I did want to say, tourism, first and foremost, is really a top priority. That is clear. Tourism is the sector that is the hardest hit, and it also, of course, makes up for a big portion of the employment for the men and women who work in the sector. Now, I will go back to a point that I think is crucial to reiterate. I decided, as the Commissioner for the Internal Market, to take all of the various ecosystems that are experiencing this crisis, that are all experiencing it differently but fully. So, for example, the automotive industry, the textile industry, heavy industry, those who work in small business in our neighborhoods. Now, my objective from the outset was to look at the damages that might be wreaked, and I gave you the percentages for tourism. I said that in my introduction, and for about 4 or 5 months, I've been working very carefully on that, and I continue to state that we're going to need massive amounts of funds, and that Europe should do what the U.S. is doing, which is around 10% of its GDP for fighting the crisis. Now, that 10%, we know that tourism makes up of course. It consists in all of those areas that you mentioned, but restaurants as well, airlines, the cruise industry. I consider that tourism should benefit the most, more than 20%, without a doubt. So I'm giving you a broad idea of what I am fighting for. That is precisely what I am looking at. And this is the data these are the numbers that I crunched to bring forth to you. And that's why the president has also been calling for a Marshall Plan. So we know that tourism is perhaps the one that is going to be the hardest hit. That is why we need, of course, to do everything that we can do to do even more than have the budgetary line, to make sure that all of the member states, and I mean all of them, would have the same amount of access to the necessary funds such that they can compensate in each individual member state. Greece being, of course, one of those, because we know what tourism means for Greece. We all fully understand that. But I'm also thinking about, of course, Bulgaria, where tourism accounts for 12% of its economy. Spain, for example, which is the top destination in Europe for tourism. Of course, then there's France, Italy, all of these member states that need to have the same and equal access to this financing. And that is why I'm working so hard, fighting along with Mr. Gentiloni, to make sure that we can establish this famous fourth pillar that I spoke of before, and the Marshall Plan, that we can have a quick access to the necessary finance, more or less on equal footing. That is what we are fighting for, to do just that. And I said, of course, the priority will be tourism, but of course, we're going to be placing emphasis on the entire ecosystems and all of the ecosystems. Thank you very much, Commissioner Breton. We're going to take 10 quick